This is otherwise state champ Alex Thompson. This is Josh Elwer from the University of Northern Iowa, and you're listening to Potentially Dangerous on IA Wrestle.
Hey, is this heaven?
No, it's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show.
When the whistle go.
Welcome back to Potentially Dangerous, presented by MyHouse. This is episode 73. Big episode for you here. 60 minutes plus of Iowa high school wrestling talk with myself, Tony Hager. We'll be talking 1A rankings with Eric Schares, 2A rankings with Lars Underbakke, and 3A rankings from Kirk Crittenden, who's making his first appearance here, the guy that started it all with me in a nice little bar, over a few refreshments, started iawrestle.com, so pumped up to talk to him later in the episode. But let's get right to it here. 1A, 2A, 3A rankings coming at you. You saw them this morning in the Des Moines Register. Shout out to them for posting our rankings the first time ever. We've had them in some small newspapers across the state, but no bigger than the Des Moines Register. So shout out to them for posting those. But you've looked over them. 3A at 8 a.m., 2A at 10 a.m., and 1A here at noon. And this is going to be a loaded weight classes up and down, 3A, 2A, 1A. Team race, no clear favorite. Alburnett definitely maybe might be the clear favorite when you're looking on paper. Southeast Polk is loaded as well. But let's get to the show here. 1A rankings with Eric Schares at Infield Power. Is that what it is now or what?
No, I switched it.
You switched out. No more baseball allegiance.
Yep.
All right. So you are the guy that does the 1A Wrestle rankings. You were going to leave us for a little bit, but you came back. You're back with us, and we're excited to have you back. But the daunting task of doing the preseason rankings it's actually behind you now. It's got to feel pretty good overall. Before we dab into these rankings, I guess what kind of stands out to you as far as how these teams are they? I mean, evenly matched, or is there somebody that's just a real clear favorite right away?
It's going to be quite a bit different than years past. I think 1A's it's kind of down a little bit. There's a lot of teams that maybe have 4 or 5 good guys, but then they're also giving up 3-4 forfeits. And one of the better teams in 1A is going to be like that. They have 4 or 5 good guys, but they're going to have 5 forfeits. And you got like the West boys. They were 2 of the better wrestlers in 1A. They transferred out to 2A, so it's a little bit weaker than it has been in years past, I think.
Well, let's go to 106 pounds right off the bat. Jameis Wilson, right at number 1 for Alburnett. Huge dual team. I remember just watching that dual team state championship last year, but you got him at 106. He's a shorter guy, and I thought maybe some of these freshmen will bump up a little bit, but you're being told that he's going to be at 6 again.
Yeah, he's one that I was told by the coach he'll be at 106. He was definitely a little smaller last year, so I don't think he'll have too much of an issue making that there. But he's the highest returning place winner. Got 5th last year. All the guys above him either graduated or moved up. Yep. So he's going to be the favorite there to start off, I would think.
Well, 106 is always tough to do. I think the first set of rankings for you guys of knowing who's bumping up. You usually see guys from 106 when they go clear up to 20, 26. And you've got a couple seniors up here. At number 6, Sigler from Dyke New Hartford, and then Seth Wright from Woodbine. 2 seniors there in the top 10. Can you explain a little bit about how these rankings fell for you? What was the biggest thing for you of how you kind of had this all shook out?
Well, the top 5 guys are all returning qualifiers. Sigler after that from Dyke, he won big matches during the year, but he got put in some tough districts and sectionals. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him move his way up there. And then you have the younger Seabrick from Lisbon. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, make a big step this year. Also, Caden Jones of Lake Mills, he was in a tough sectional district last year, so I could see him moving his way up the rankings here throughout the year.
Moving up to 113 pounds, a familiar name, Samuel Lloyd, New London, a junior, and then a guy that I had to ask you about a little bit earlier today is Tatum. I feel like I don't know why I haven't heard that name, but he's been fourth place? Is that what, was it right, or third place?
Fourth the last 2 years.
So right now you've got Tatum slotted at second. You got Sam number one. Will these guys, New London, Oakland, Riverside, will these guys get kind of an early test to each other? I'm not really familiar with where these guys go. So will these guys get to see each other before the state tournament?
I doubt it. That's about as far in Iowa as you can get from each other, with Oakland, Riverside being way out west, and then New London being on the east side. I highly doubt they ever cross over, but yeah, Lloyd, he's a returning runner-up last year and will almost place fourth twice, so I think those two are above everyone else. There's kind of a line from there on down, those guys.
So Phillips, Brown, all these different guys are really kind of just trying to make a name for themselves. You've got him in here ranked, so obviously they've done something in the past, but you kind of see this as a two-horse race right now, this preseason anyways.
Yeah, unless someone else comes in, a freshman here or whatnot. But, those two guys were place winners, and then I think your next two guys with Emmerich and Phillips, I believe they won a match. So did Heberlin. They won a match. The rest of the guys, they all went 0-2 at state, still qualified, though.
Let's move up to 120 pounds. This is probably the toughest weight class in 1A. You got Brock Henderson, Northland, number 1, Brady Kiner, number 2, Southeast Warren, Donnie Schmidt, Wapsie Valley, number 3, Gable Fox, Don Bosco. This is a pretty heavy weight class here for you, Eric.
Yeah, this is one of the few weights, too, where actually almost everyone in there I was told that's the weight that they plan on going. So, yeah, I think this is one of the most loaded weights, if not the most loaded, because you have Brock Henderson, state champ last year. Donnie Schmidt, state champ. He's up 2 weights, though. Kiner's runner-up. Gable Fox, third place finisher. Meeker was fourth. Yeah, and you got two more placers there and 2 more qualifiers. So this weight's pretty loaded.
Number 1 at 126. No shocker here. Alex Thompson. He's number 1 pound-for-pound wrestler in our last rankings. Fab 50. He's the guy that everyone's going to be on the lookout for to try to continue that quest for his 4th state title for Underwood. How's everybody else look at this weight class?
I don't think he'll be tested too much, and that's not really a detriment to the guys' weight. That's just how good Thompson is. But you got, Cooper Seabrick, he did some real good things last year. Chance Starzin, he looked great. You got Connor Lang, who placed as a freshman last year from Missouri Valley. And then, even all the way down to number 7, you have Ben Moyer, who he placed 2 years ago, but last year he went 0-2. He just had kind of a bad tournament, tough draw. Logan Luchin, he's a place winner. And you got number 9, Blake Bauer, didn't qualify last year. Was in a tough sectional and district, but he got second the year before. So another pretty solid weight here, I would say, 1 through 10.
132, a name that people will be familiar with, Chase McLaughlin from Lisbon. And then another name, Tibbetts at number 3, Martin at 2. I guess what went into your rankings here of these top 3 guys?
McLaughlin. When I'm looking at the rankings here, if I see guys take a big jump up in weight, I'm kind of leery to put him up too high. Even though I have Josh Tibbetts, he was 113 last year, got 3rd, but I didn't quite want to put him in that 1 or 2 spot just until I see how he handles this big jump in weight. But he was looking pretty good as a freshman last year at 113, so it would not shock me if he knocked off either of these 2 guys above him. But still, Martin and McLaughlin are very tough.
Briggs, too. He's a senior. Akron Westfield. Skyler there. Is this a guy that you think can be depending on how Tibbetts really handles this weight jump, do you think Briggs can get up into that top three mid-season?
I think him and Thompson could, those two boys from out west, from Logan Magnolia and Akron Westfield. I think, with what they did last year, that wouldn't shock me to see either of them up higher either.
138 pounds, got another senior ranked at number 1 from West Fork, Jacob Hansen. This weight class, I'm going to say there's a lot of not a whole lot of big names at 138 pounds. Who at this weight class is going to be kind of a standout? There a few people that you think have a shot at taking the title at 138?
Yeah, I'd say your top 2 or 3 guys there probably. Hansen, he's just solid. Roth, he was at a tough weight last year and placed pretty high. And then Lundgren, he's one of them guys who hasn't necessarily taken the next step. He's placed, I think, 2 or 3 times now, but it's never been real high. So see if he can take a big step and get, in finals.
Moving up to 145 pounds, that's a name that I recognize. Trent Johnson, Dyke Newhofer, Trey Brisker from Wilton, Dylan Shuck, Sibley Cheaton, number 3. All those 3 guys have been somebody that it's been a name on our radar. Fab 50 rankings. All 3 are actually committed to go to the next level. Johnson, Brisker, and Shuck all going to the next level. So this is this is a pretty tough weight class here at 145 pounds.
Yeah, your top guys are returning place winners. Johnson, he's just been solid his whole career. Hasn't gotten that state title yet, though, so, could this be the year? I don't know. And you got Brisker, same thing with him. He's a junior. Been in some pretty tough brackets. Shuck, he's been pretty solid throughout his career. Hoyer made a big jump last year. And then one guy I want to talk about is you got Jason Even at number 9. He was off to a pretty good start last year, but he got hurt early in the year, so he couldn't finish. He didn't wrestle sectional districts, any of that. So it'd be interesting to see how he handles this year.
Moving up to 152 pounds, Swafford, Axmere at the top, top 2 ranked here. Brady Wilson at a Logan Magnolia, a senior as well. That's a name that I recognize. Talk a little bit about this 152-pound weight class.
Yeah, I'd say Axmere might be a step above everyone else here. He's really impressed me the last couple years. Then you got Brendan Swafford from Mediapolis. They're down a class this year. It'll be interesting to see how he stacks up with some of these guys because, as far as I know, a lot of them he hasn't wrestled yet. And then Schrader, that was another guy who, as a freshman, looked awesome, placed as a freshman. And last year he got kind of drawn into a tough spot in the bracket and didn't end up placing. But I think I watched him wrestle a ton, and I'm just chalking that up to a bad day because he's very solid. Brady Wilson, same thing with him. Your top 4 or 5 or might be kind of above the rest, but still some solid wrestlers down below that too.
Moving up to 160 pounds, you've got 3 seniors in the top 3. Talk a little bit about these 3 at the top coming into this season.
All right, this is a weight where I would expect a little blowback tomorrow potentially. You got Carson Seahouse. I put him number 1 over Jacob Krakow, even though Krakow was in the finals last year, and then Seahouse ended up 3rd. Another weight where Krakow was, I believe, 138 last year, so kind of a big jump, and Seahouse was, I believe, 152 last year. So I just know Seahouse, he's real tough on top, real strong kid. So I'd love to see those 2 meet up, and I'm sure we will. Then you got Drew Anderson, Dalton Nelson, Saylor, Tucker Franklin, all those guys, all in place a couple times. So that could be, maybe a 2-horse race right now, but 3 through 6 could definitely challenge. And then I think 7 on down, you're another step or 2 below those guys.
Up at 170, Alburnett has another top-ranked wrestler, Tanner Sloan, a junior. What's the rest of this weight class look like here for you?
After Sloan tore through everybody last year, bumping up from, he wrestled 138, I believe, 2 years ago, and he was 160. after he tore through everyone last year, there's no reason to think that he can't do it again, even though you got some real solid guys below him here. You got probably 2 through 8. They're all returning. 2 through 6 are all returning place winners, and then 7 and 8 were qualifiers, as well as number 9. So this, it probably isn't going to be easy for Sloan. He's got some competition for sure. He's probably the leader in the pack right now, I would say.
182 pounds. There's a name down here at number 6, Dante Arzani, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Yep.
From I-35. That is a name that I recognize as well. Down clear to 6. Everybody above him, what are these guys? Why are they ranked above Dante?
Well, Dante's brother Sal he won state last year. I would say so far, just based on credentials, Dante isn't quite on Sal's level yet. That's not to say that he can't make that step this year, but I mean, you got Logan Schumacher, only a junior, even up at 182. He looked great last year. McDowell, he ended up third place last year. Schumacher was third as well. Deer King, Schween, Ovesen, all these guys, top. I mean, the guys above him they're solid, so he's going to have his work cut out for him, trying to place or finish above some of these guys, and even the guys below him are pretty solid too.
Is Swain Bell Plain, is that really kind of their horse that they've got on that team? They're typically known as a powerhouse. Haven't been as late, but I mean, is Joey probably their top guy on their team?
You got him and Dakota Henry down in the lower weights. He's a returning place winner too. So yeah, it's kind of toss up between those two.
Moving to 195 pounds, you got Slade from Lake Mills, Bishop, Skyler, then Caleb Reeves, Hunter Jong. I mean, this is a tough weight class, 195 pounds, too.
Yeah, some of the top guys are pretty tough here, especially, Slade Cifuentes, he's a returning state champ, so, he's going to be solid. Then Bishop got second last year. I believe he is going to be out for the first little bit of the season, though, so we'll see if he can get back early enough to look strong in the end here. But, I mean, some of these other guys, they're definitely good, but, they were either low place winners, and then those top 2 guys, are obviously one was a champ, one got second. So this might be 2 race here with a solid next, 6-7 guys.
We're getting up here to the heavy guys, 220 pounds. Got Reef from Missouri Valley, Francis from Hancock. 220, 285. Is it tough for you to rank some of these guys when we get up to this weight class to figure out, if they're going to be at 220, if they're going to slide into the 285 weight class? How have things been for you these last 2 years ranking?
Yeah, it's pretty tough in these upper weights. I mean, obviously, most of the time heavyweight, if they were there the year before, they're going to stay there. But, I probably got 3/4 of the coaches to respond in weights, and the rest of them I just had to put the guys up a weight or 2 from where they were. But, sometimes the guys will stay there. They'll stay at 220 for all 4 years. Other times they'll jump up to heavyweight after a year. So, yeah, you just never know.
So these 2 weight classes, what are the couple guys in both weight classes that stand out to you?
I think probably 220, we got Reef and Francis. Those 2 are definitely top 2. Then you got Minders is right in there. And then it's maybe another step down to the next 3 or 4 guys, I would say. That's probably how 220 is, I would say.
About 285.
Yeah, Brinkman, returning state champ. And heavyweight's really the top 4 guys are real close. So this could be another surprising good weight. Actually, I think heavyweight in 1A has been pretty competitive the last couple of years. There hasn't been anyone who's, 2-3 steps better than everyone else. But then you got your top 4 guys that said are pretty tough, and then 5, 6, those guys are place winners. There's got the qualifiers in there too, so still pretty tough weight here up at heavyweight.
overall, looking at these rankings, kind of going through a few of the individual weight classes. Of course, if you're listening to this podcast, you haven't seen the rankings yet, you can go to iawrestle.com to check them out. But the tournament team rankings, Alburnett number 1, they've got 6 ranked wrestlers. Missouri Valley with 4. Sibley Ocheyedan with 5 ranked wrestlers. Lisbon at 4th with 4 ranked wrestlers. Martinsdale St. Mary's with 2. Logan Magnolia with 5. Westwood 4. Don Bosco with 6. Southeast Warren with 3. And Wapsie Valley in there at 5. There's your normal names in there at 1A. You know, is there a team in here that could maybe come up with a good tournament? What team do you think maybe could be a surprise to this 1A? Maybe like the Alburnetts and the Lisbons of the 1A.
I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, you got 1A to 3A is just night and day. In 3A, you got teams with 8, 9, 10 guys that are all going to place, and then 1A, like last year, you had Mason City Newman get 3rd place with 2 guys. So and when you're getting 3rd place with 2 guys, that's one bad match that'll put you, up getting a trophy or in 10th, 15th place. So Alburnett, they just have too many top end guys, I think, to be caught. Unless there's some injuries or something happens, it's going to be real tough for them to get caught. I could see Missouri Valley and Sibley giving them a little bit of a run if they maybe take a couple guys take the next step. But one thing I was looking up is right now, you got Missouri Valley 2 and Sibley 3. I went back and looked, and neither of those teams have ever gotten a top 3 trophy at traditional states. So could be getting some new names in there, getting some trophies this year. Lisbon's right there. Look at Martinsdale. They're 5th with just only 2 guys. So I don't know. I think your champ's going to come from, I'd say, the top 3, maybe 4 with Lisbon. But
Sibley's has got some of those veterans on their team, really kind of chomping at their bit, know the coaches, and they feel like this is a really good team that they have. And it's 1A wrestling, like you said. You could have 2 champs and you're winning the whole thing, and you're hoping to get some qualifiers in there that can pick up some points. And I always get excited for 1A wrestling. That's where what I grew up. That's what I know. And so make sure that if you got any questions about the rankings, shoot Eric Schares a tweet at Eric Schares, SCHARES, or always at iWrestle here on Twitter. But these are behind you, man. These are the ones that are behind you, the hardest ones to put together. We're going to see the freshmen, probably a few freshmen in next week's rankings, or not next week's, but the next set of rankings. That's also something you guys also need to know if you're listening to this podcast, that we do not rank freshmen in our first set. I want to say we. I don't do any of these rankings. I'm just a guy here that puts it together. I don't do anything whatsoever with these rankings. I look them over and format them. That's pretty much about the gist of what I did. So, Eric, compared to last year, the talent-wise, one more time, I guess, what do you think? Do you think this is a year that maybe we could see a few freshmen really kind of make a name for themselves early? Because it seems like some of these weight classes are pretty open, say, from 3 on down.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, just looking back at, like we said, 2 of the better 1A wrestlers coming into this year are at Solon now in 2A. So we got a lot of tough seniors that cleared out, a couple kids transferred out of 1A. And then, just with the realignment of, you had like West Marshall bump up to Class 2A. You got Mediapolis coming down. You got some actually, pretty big name schools changing classes, which hasn't happened for a while. So, yeah, any year where it's going to happen, this would definitely be a year.
A big name that I know that will be in the ranks, I guess I don't want to know, but I'm assuming that he's going to come and make a splash, will be Cale Happel, obviously the brother of Carter Happel. But I interviewed him after AAU State, and he said that he's sick of being known as Carter Happel's brother. So this could be the year that he makes it happen as a freshman, whether he's going to be 13-pounder, 106-pounder. Guess we'll wait and see. That will be probably be in the next set of rankings. But if he's at 113 pounds, That's a tough weight class for sure. So be interesting to see where he slides in there. So as always, Eric, any other last words for this 1A class?
No, I love hearing the feedback from people. As you guys know, I don't mind speaking my mind. So just be prepared. If you come at me and I think I'm right still, you're going to hear it. But I love hearing it from the other end too. So
that is something that doesn't really happen very often. You're the one that dishes out, and no one usually gives it back to you. So I hope somebody gives you a little squabble for some of these rankings. So always hit up Eric Schares on Twitter. IA Wrestle, but we'll be talking to you at the next set, Eric. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
So we'll head to 2A Wrestling with our ranker. He's back once again, as always. Lars Underbakke, welcome to the show. Talking 2A Wrestling. We're going to the moon, as you would say. Wrestling is underway, and we're going to find out how your rankings are really quick.
Tony, I feel like we've been on the moon for a couple of weeks already, especially as we worked on getting these rankings going. I'm just glad to have the preseason ones done. Now we can get into some live action, and it'll be that much more fun to do these.
So let's get right at it. 106. Foul from Clear Lake, number 1, a sophomore, coming back. You got you don't think he's going to be bumping up to 113 pounds? You got confirmation he'll be back at 106?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be back at 106, and we all know his accolades, what he's done nationally. He's a clear-cut, easy number 1. Dylan Robinson's the only other returning place winner here for New Hampton. He's actually a senior, still holding down 106. With that, New Hampton's lineup, in those bottom weights, a lot of people wondered how they were going to fit them all in, but being able to get Dylan back down is huge. Another name to keep an eye on here would be Trent McDonough from Davenport Assumption. Some people might not be all that familiar with that name. He actually was not in the varsity lineup last year, believe it or not. But this kid's been good his whole life, all the way coming through. He actually lost to Randoni in overtime in a wrestle-off last year. All Randoni went on to do was win a state title as a senior. So definitely keep an eye on McDonough. And then, you guys know our policy is not to rank freshmen, make them earn their way in. But how's this for a list of freshmen? You want to talk about, wrestlers in their blood. You've got guys like Jacob Moore of Denver. He would be a cousin of Cliff Moore's. You've got Nathan Curry from Sergeant Bluff Luton. You might recognize the name from Braden Curry. Jack Thompson from Union, the little brother of Max Thompson. You've got Zeb Nida from Solon. Would be Louis Nida's little brother. Will Esmoil from West Liberty. Bryce Esmoil's little brother. Brock Beck from Grinnell. These are all just family names. All their older siblings and cousins have just been studs. And they're all ones to keep an eye on, and they're all going to make their way into the rankings real quick.
We just got done talking with Eric about the Cale Happel being in Carter's shadow. Holy cow, 106 is loaded with people that have been in their brother's shadow because they've have success, or cousins or whatever. There's a lot of success there, and doesn't always equal to instant success as a freshman in high school, but some of these upperclassmen, Snyder, a senior from Estherville Lincoln, he's going to be having some of these freshmen nipping at his butt. And Fance from West Marshall, that's another name that I recognize, Hunter. So some of these upperclassmen are definitely going to have to watch out for their freshmen. And that's what I kind of like about this, Lars, of not having those freshmen in the first set of rankings. People know those names, obviously, but there's not a radar right away on them, and they have to make them earn it. And that's what I really like about usually 106, 113, we see some of these freshmen get in those rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all well known around the state. None of these guys are going to sneak up on too many people, but I agree. They haven't seen this level of competition, and we just got to make them earn it, and they're going to have plenty of chances that first weekend. I know like Esmoil's going to be at Keith Young. He's probably going to get shots at Oldham from West Des Moines Valley. I'm not sure if they'll see Cullen Shriver. There's going to be some good kids right off the bat, so all these guys are going to have plenty of chances to prove themselves.
113 pounds. Carter Cox, NIDA conflict wrestler. Talked a lot of, I don't say smack, just really hyped up the match, was excited about his matchup with Noah Fye at Night of Conflict, but he's coming in here as a senior, Atlantic, looking to start the season off, but you got Shea Ruffridge right behind him from Pocahontas, Anderlich from Cresco. I know you've talked about him, off air a little bit about Caden. How's this weight class look to shake up? Is this another one where we might see some freshmen, or is this going to be a little bit where we've got some veterans that lead the charge up at the top three?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be more veterans. You do have a couple freshmen. Gabe Lewis from Denver, Jack West from Winterset are two that definitely come to mind that can make some noise at this weight. Carter Cox, I kind of half expected him to be at 120 this year. As I talked to him, I had a pretty good conversation with him before the rankings, and he assured me he's planning on 13. He said that there might be some duels that he wrestles 20. They'll kind of mess with that a little bit, but that he's planning on going 13 right off the bat for tournaments, and that's the weight he wants to be at. So, returning state finalist, he's easily the number one guy. But yeah, Ruffridge is right behind him. I had Ruffridge ranked top 2 or 3 all year last year. Like you say, Anderlich. Chase Loonsman is one I would keep an eye on. He cut a lot of weight to get to 6 last year. Had a great year and then kind of struggled. Postseason, we had to make weight consecutive days. He's one to keep an eye on. And another one is Mason Cleveland. Again, I'll go back to New Hampton, but him and Robinson kind of went back and forth last year on varsity. Robinson ended up taking a spot and placing, but Cleveland had some huge wins last year. He beat Randoni, who was a state finalist or state champion. He beat Seabrook from Lisbon. He beat Idy from Decorah. So this guy's no stranger to winning. He just needed a spot in the lineup, and I expect Mason Cleveland to improve on that number 7 ranking.
Moving up to 120 pounds, and there can't be a whole lot of people that were too excited about seeing the West boys head here. You got Bryce West, number 1 ranked. Behind him, Aiden Reeves, Drake Doolittle, Jared Hensley, Zach Thompson. 4 real good studs that really weren't too probably excited to see Bryce West at this weight class.
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 other returning place winners at this weight. They didn't all place here, but Cole Hansen placed last year. You already named Thompson, Hensley. I struggled a little bit. Reeves, Doolittle, 2-3. These guys are real close. They both placed 3rd last year. Reeves at 106, Doolittle at 113. Both had monster freshman seasons. I gave it to Reeves on the number 2, mostly due to bigger national accolades, more wrestling, that kind of thing. I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt on that. But yeah, Bryce West, 2-time state champion in 1A, bumping up. Obviously the number 1 kid in the state, but I expect Reeves, Doolittle, and Hensley all to give him, good matches, and I wouldn't give him that 3rd state title just yet.
I mean, we got a lot of weight classes to go, but this is right now what I looked at earlier. This is one of the most loaded weight classes probably in this class. Wouldn't you have to say? It's
definitely up there. It's real top heavy. There's guys like Phil Idy and Fusely and Steege and some of those guys below, but those top 4 or 5 guys are as good as they come. Hensley is number 4, and he's a 3-time place winner already. So, this is really a loaded weight up there at the top.
126 pounds. Drew West is coming in as well. Got Riker Sims at number 2, Riley White, Brant O'Shea, Brady Fitz rounding out the top 5. And this is not as stacked as 20, but you got Drew West right there at the top, and that's gonna be a 1-2 punch, obviously through the whole season, maybe leading their team to a state title.
Well, this set of rankings doesn't look quite as stacked. The problem is you got a guy hiding in the weeds here by the name of Michael Millage, who didn't make this first set of rankings due to the fact he's got to sit out the first semester. It was going to be interesting to try to rank him and West, which one won, which one two. They kind of took it out of my hands. So Millage didn't get in this set of rankings, but don't forget about him when sizing this up. Riker Sims, Riley Wright, both really good wrestlers. I expect them to compete with West. And then, throw Millage in that mix. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what Brant O'Shea can do. He moved down from 3A to 2A, so I expect him to have a good year as well. And Dante Takia has had a really good summer. This kid wrestles a lot from Iowa Falls. So I'm kind of excited to see what he can do now in his senior year. He's already a couple-time place winner.
Millage for sure at 126 pounds.
Yes.
No, there's no movement there at all. You don't think at all? I mean, going up maybe, or think that's the weight class he wants to be.
That's where he wants to be. That's the plan.
Woo!
There's not much room to move.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're loaded. They got Babcock at 20. They're gonna have Phi at 32. We haven't got to that one yet, so they're just stacked through those lower weights. So
yeah,
that's the lineup that I've heard. I've got everybody.
New Hampton's going to be pretty sick when they get Millage back. So hopefully we see a Millage West showdown. Not sure where we'll see it.
Could have been the first week at Independence if Solon and New Hampton are both there, but we won't get to see it.
Well, 132 pounds. Let's go up and let's talk about it. You got that Noah Phi in there, United Conflict wrestler. We talked about his big win over Carter Cox, getting that grudge out of the way at taking him down after obviously a disappointing finish to his state tournament. But you got him. Obviously, he's going up a lot of weight classes here, so I got to imagine that that weight jump going up to 132 pounds weighed a lot into putting him at number 4. Talk about the guys above him, Steffen, Holslag, and Curry.
Yeah, there's a little bit of question here. Curry, Holslag, this really could probably go either way. Number 2, number 1. They both got second 2 years ago. Last year, Holslag ended up 3rd. Curry ended up 2nd. So Curry got a little bit of a bump there, even though he's going up a weight to Holslag's weight. As far as Steffen being in there at 3, Noah Phi actually bumped up last year against Crestwood, and Steffen knocked him off. So that head-to-head, and then Steffen did get 4th last year at 126. Phi got 5th at 113. So that top 4 kind of worked itself out. But, yeah, Noah Phi at number 4 there, I don't think anybody's sleeping on that one or anything like that. So, he's grown a lot. He's a big, tall kid for as low as he's been. His dad's a big guy. I expect him to kind of continue to grow. So he's grown into that weight. Probasco is a good one there. Matt Robertson transferred into Davenport Assumption. He was at Pleasant Valley in 3A last year. So I expect him to do big things. Duncan McCain's went way up in weight. And a really interesting one to me, I can't wait to see this kid back on the mat, is Gable Sapirda. He was highly touted freshman. He was, I believe, ranked number 1 most of the year his freshman year. Ended up getting 5th that year. Last year, sat out the entire season as a sophomore. So I can't wait to see him back on the mat. He's obviously grown. He's a big-time cross-country runner. He's gotten healthy. And I'm really excited to see what Gable can do now that he's back on the mat.
Moving up to 138 pounds, 145 pounds, 2 absolute hammers hold down the number 1 spots here. Keaton Gertz at 138 for New Hampton. Ryan Leisure at 145 pounds for Clear Lake. Who at these? Let's just start at 38. Is there anybody, any names at that weight class that can challenge Gertz here?
There's some good names, but I think I've expressed my feelings on Gertz plenty of times. It would be a big surprise to me to not see him at the top of that stand. That being said, Rosenboom's real tough. Tanner Abbas has been working hard. He's a couple-time place winner. I know he's put in a lot of time this summer. There's some good kids there, but as far as I'm concerned, this is Keaton Gertz's weight, and everybody else is, fighting for a spot to try to get a chance to knock him off.
Can you say the same for 145 pounds with Leisure? A 2-time state champ right there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's hard to go against him. I really, really like Kyler Reich from Spirit Lake. I think this kid's got a huge future, but that's a really tall task to try to knock off Ryan Leisure. This guy's a stud. He's maybe not talked about enough in the state of Iowa for how good he is. Like you said, he's already a 2-time state champ, committed to Iowa State. He's done it all. So, as much as I like Reich, I like Vest. Cale Kruger coming off of a big injury last year after he had a hot start. There's some really good guys here, but, this has really got to be heavily favored for Ryan Leisure at this point.
152 pounds. You've got 2 juniors at the top. Joe Kelly, number 1 from West Liberty. Isaac Judge from South Tama. And, you think is this pretty top-heavy with these juniors at the top? Or you've got a senior at 3. another senior at 4, another senior at 5 with Kelso. I mean, what's this weight class look like for you?
This to me, top to bottom, is one of the better weight classes. You might not have the real standout guy like you maybe had at 20 or 26, but really even 1 through 7 especially, these guys are hammers. All these top 10s really good. Julian Broderson's an interesting one from Davenport Assumption. Wrestled most of the year last year at 170. They had a loaded lineup. They had Nick Johnson, the senior, at 52. They had some really good guys. So he bumped up, still had a really good year. He's down more natural at 52 now. He's been wrestling a ton. I expect really big things out of Broderson this year. I know Assumption's extremely high on him. But yeah, at the top, Joe Kelly, got second as a sophomore last year after being 8th as a freshman. Isaac Judge from South Tama got 3rd last year. He actually gave Malcolm his best match of the season in the semifinals at state last year. Trey Pekanowski from Cresco was in the mix. I believe he had I can't even remember, 5 or 6 point lead in the semifinals last year before losing that match. So, this is a really deep weight. Wes Cummins from PCM had a good freshman year. So, I don't know that there's a standout at this weight. I think Judge and Kelly are definitely the top 2, but it's a pretty deep class here. And actually, you don't see too many freshmen at upper weights even getting this high, but John Ebaugh from Denver would be a name to keep an eye on here at all the way up at 152, but I think this guy could make a little bit of noise.
160 pounds. We've got some 2 guys in the top 3 that could have some of the tournament team, state title implications here with Ryan Gorman and Trevor Nelson. And you got Lucas Rowland in there at PCM Monroe, but those 2, Gorman and Nelson, are really going to play a pivotal role in those key points when it comes to Salone and New Hampton. So what do you like at 160 pounds here?
Yeah, again, I think Trevor Nelson and Lucas Rowland are the top 2. After that, I think it takes a little bit of a step back. Nelson's defending state runner-up. Rowland had another one of those, fab sophomores from PCM, got 7th last year. And then really, you start taking this little step back. Gorman, Westfall Edwards, Hageman, they were all really good wrestlers. They were all, Gorman and Westfall were state qualifiers last year. Gorman's going to be a big part of this for New Hampton. If they're going to, win this team title over Solon, he's going to have to place high. I think he's in that mix, but I could see him anywhere from, 2nd, 3rd to maybe 7th and 8th. So that's going to be a big swing for New Hampton. I think Gorman's a guy they're really going to be counting on here. I hit a little bit on Hageman. He actually got 3rd at districts last year. But this kid, he was 33-4, I believe was his record last year, and just got into a tough district. His whole life, he's been one of those kids coming up through AAU. Everybody's been waiting to take a jump. So I look for him to make a little bit of a splash this year as well.
At 170, you have 8 seniors in the rankings, and you got 1 sophomore, 1 junior. What do you like at 170 pounds? From obviously, you're pretty heavy on the veterans here. Yeah,
there's guys back that have placed multiple times. Connor Shaw, Brock Jennings, Tucker Morrison. Anybody who's paid attention to high school wrestling in Iowa knows these names. They've all placed multiple times. They all placed again last year. Jennings making a big jump up from 152 to 170. So I'm kind of interested to see, how he plays out into that mix with those guys. Michael Kent from Iowa Falls placed 8th last year. Dylan Diltz is another one. We talked about Gorman playing a big role for New Hampton at 160. I think Diltz is kind of that guy for Solon here. He was a state qualifier last year, basically on one shoulder. He had a shoulder that would always pop out. He always had it in a brace. He struggled with it a lot, in the middle of matches. He got that shoulder fixed this summer. He's a guy I think has a really high ceiling. I think he can get into that top 2 or 3. And if Diltz can get into the state finals for Solon, that might be the push that they need to, finish at the top.
182 pounds, you've got Chase Schultz from Crescent Orient, Maxburg. 195, you got Bryce Esmore, West Liberty. 2 big names right there, back to back. At these 2 weight classes, what are some other names that you think could maybe make some noise, maybe push these top-ranked guys at these weight classes?
182 is Chase Schultz's world. Everybody else is just hanging out. Cole Bennett's a real good wrestler. It's two-time state place winner from ADM. Actually transferred into Perry this year. Perry's got a good team, so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. After that, it takes a pretty big jump down. The rest are state qualifiers, district qualifiers. There's some pretty good kids. This is a weight I struggled a little bit with, to find 10 kids I really, really thought deserved it. That 8, 9, 10 spot I struggled. There's 2, 3 kids on the outside that could have been in those slots as well. Went back and forth with quite a few coaches on this to get some thoughts, but I really don't. I think Schultz and Bennett are probably your state finalists, but I just don't see anybody, pushing Chase Schultz here at this weight.
Do you think the same for Esmol at 95? I like Zach. Do like Zach Stork from Atlantic as well. I think he's been wrestling really well, a senior as well. So you always got that that last season to have a great one.
Yeah, there's some good guys here. Really, I think this is a pretty solid top 10, but it's along those same lines. I just don't see anybody pushing. I shouldn't say pushing. I don't see anybody beating Esmoil at this weight. He's going to get some competition right off the bat. I know at Keith Young, he'll get some good competition here, but in 2A, Stork's going up a weight. He's had some mixed results. He had some big wins last year, but then he'd turn around and lose a match, the next time out. Peter Schmidt's a guy who Esmoil's real familiar with. They wrestled a couple times last year. I think I had video on one last year where Esmoil ended up beating him by like 7 points. So again, some good kids, Scooble, guys like that, but I just think Esmoil's a pretty heavy favorite at this weight.
220, Broderson from Davenport Assumption, Hewlett, Crescent Orient, Maxburg, top 2 wrestlers here. 220, 285, I always feel, I'm really excited that they still have this 220. They haven't got rid of it. I'd like to see a 98 pound still, but I do like the 220 because you get really those guys that are really heavy built and a little quicker than the heavyweights. I don't want to knock the heavyweights, but you really get those football players that are right in the middle of the line there that make up this weight class. What are your thoughts on 220?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty solid weight as well. As a big guy, I enjoy watching these guys too. I'm glad that the weight class is here. Right at the top, Noah Broderson and Caden Hewlett are both, multiple-time place winners already. So they were a pretty easy 1-2. I think that'll be a really fun match. Broderson placed 3rd last year here. Hewlett placed 5th. Then after that, you have some experience, not state place winners, but guys like Baumler and Caleb Ring and A.J. Malloy have been around a long time, made a lot of noise. Drabala won a match at state at 195 last year. Nick Smith's an interesting guy from Central DeWitt. Real athletic kid. He's only a junior. He was a district qualifier last year, but I think this is a guy who could make a little bit of a jump this year and get into that, top 4, top 5 mix as well. So be interesting to see how this one plays out.
How about 285, a name that's really made a lot of noise this summer. Ranked number 3, Spencer Trineri from Clarion Goldfield. Clarion's really loaded. Now they got Trineri there, but what are your thoughts on? Do you think he can get it done here at this weight class with Lawson at the top from Webster City?
Yeah, Trineri was kind of a hard kid to place here. He's I've been well aware of this kid growing up. He's been a stud his whole life. Didn't have quite the year I expected as a freshman last year. He got 7th place. So that kind of, it was kind of hard to push him in folk style. He's obviously got all the credentials in freestyle and Greco and everything. But, I did place him at 3rd. I do have Van Hoff from Sioux Center ahead of him, who had a really good year last year, ended up 5th at state tournament. Cooper Lawson from Webster City. He's one of those kids that just doesn't get the love he deserves in my eyes. I really, really like Lawson. I think he's a really good wrestler. To me, he was a clear-cut number 1 at this weight. You got guys like Lape, who placed 4th in 2015. Sat out last year again because of injury. He's coming back. Be real fun to see where he shapes out here. And then you'll notice there are a couple of guys missing from this weight as well. So Levi Dua from Mid Prairie and Tristan Wirfs from Mount Vernon are two big names that everybody kind of maybe expects to see here. They were left off for various reasons. You know, Dua was injured during football. I did talk to his coach last week. He has been cleared. He is going to come back this season, but it'll probably be January before we saw Dua. So I did go ahead and leave him out for the set. I discussed it with his coach. We don't rank them if we know they're out for a significant period of time. And then Tristan Wirfs is another interesting one. Both guys are committed to play football at Iowa. Wirfs, you know, he's big. I don't know if you guys have watched him much, but this kid's a monster. He's got quite a bit of weight to cut to get to 285. There were some questions. I know there's a lot of rumors floating out all over the state about whether or not he's going to be out for wrestling. I am told that he has been at practice. He is going to try to lose the weight, but they aren't sure how long it's going to take and when he'll be around. So I did decide to leave him out of this first set of rankings since it's going to be a little while before he will compete. So once those two get back in, you know, this becomes just a loaded weight to me. I actually think this is one of the better weights in 2A when you got Lawson and Trineri and Lape and Van Hoff, and then you throw in Dua and Wirfs. You know, there's a lot of really good heavyweights in 2A this year.
Let's look at the team race. New Hampton, I think, is a big favorite for me to come in, but you got them ranked at number 2. Obviously, with the West boys coming in there, huge team points for them potentially if they they can get back to the finals. So, what are your overall thoughts on these 2A tournament team rankings when you look at them? Because you first do the individual rankings, and then the tournament, the actual team rankings come after that, as far as your guys' point system go that you and Kirk and Eric drew up.
Correct. So, you know, these are based off of the individual rankings. So keep in mind, New Hampton is number 2 without Michael Millage. So you throw Millage in that mix, you know, it's going to get real interesting. Solon's got 3 number 1 ranked wrestlers to start the year, though. So, you know, Solon's right in there. They could have some guys jump up. You know, Atlantic is a lot of fun seeing a team like Atlantic jump in here. They have 6 ranked guys, not necessarily a traditional powerhouse like Assumption and Creston and some of those teams behind them, but definitely a team that could make a lot of noise. You know, it's kind of funny seeing, Clear Lake and West Liberty in there tied for 8th with 2 guys. But all 4 guys from Clear Lake and West Liberty are ranked number 1. So when you have 2 number 1 ranked wrestlers for your team, you know, you jump right in that mix as well. You know, there's some really good teams here. Cresco, Washington, you know, and a couple teams I expect to work their way into these rankings. Young teams actually have quite a few guys ranked, but, you know, maybe a little bit lower. They have to prove themselves. Keep an eye out for Denver this year. They have a ton of freshmen and sophomores, but these guys are studs, and they're going to get in the rankings, and this team is going to climb. And then also Spirit Lake. You know, when I first started these, I kind of expected Spirit Lake to maybe be in the top 10. They didn't quite make that cut, but they're right outside, and they have a lot of guys, I think, that could push their way a little bit higher as well and work into these rankings.
Well, there you have it, Lars Underbakke with your Class 2A individual team rankings. Give him a follow on Twitter at Lars Underbakke, or you can follow IUWrestle. If you give him a shout out for these rankings, or give him a little hasty remarks if he messed up. We got to know what's kids are supposed to be going to a certain weight class. Our rankers, again, cannot get to every single coach, can't get to every single kid. So this first set of rankings really is hard work from Kirk, Crittenden, Lars, and Eric. So if you've got any questions, concern, let us know, because we need to be able to try to get it right. These set of rankings are basically like your first practice. You go in a little fuzzy, a little cobwebs, and at the end, if we have it right before the state tournament, that's what your guys' jobs are to do. But for me, this is going to be an awesome race when we get Millage in there. Obviously, New Hampton's a big favorite, but you don't have him in there right now. And with the West boys going to Solon, this is going to be fun. And to see a team like Atlantic, like you said, not traditionally up there, but they've been building that with Cox there as well, a senior leading that team. It'll be interesting to see how this tournament team rankings fall into place. So appreciate the rankings as always.
Thank you. And Solon has never won a wrestling state title, so I know they're hungry up there, and it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out.
We are moving on to 3A, and things are boiling up here in the IA Wrestle office. I've got Kirk Crittenden in the house, the first time making his appearance on Potentially Dangerous. Been the 3A guy for 2 years now. 3 years. This thing is just flown by here. We started this thing. I haven't had you on. You're kind of the guy lurking in the shadows, doing the rankings, doing the behind-the-scene things, but we welcome you to the show to talk about your 3A rankings. Are you excited for the season to get underway?
Oh, yeah, good to be here, ready to get the season going. Obviously, this set of rankings, you're kind of going off what the coaches have told you when you send out that email to find out, what they're going to have this year in their lineup, what weight changes kids are going through and everything, so it's nice to have this set done. It always takes the longest. Now it's ready for time for the kids to get out on the mat and, let the fur fly.
106 pounds. Right away, we've got a guy that was just behind a ton of guys at 106 pounds last year in 3A. Nick Oldham from Valley, the number one spot. I think he thinks that's where he belonged last year, but like I said, that weight class was absolutely loaded last year. Lots of movement here at 106 pounds.
Yeah, you have, the state champion last year, Biscaglia, moving up to 13, so Oldham takes over that number one spot. Wrestled at the Super 32 this year at 6, so sounds like he is going to be definitely back down at that weight. Didn't have things go his way out there, but getting the off-season experience that these kids these days have and, crave to be able to be in these rankings and stuff. So,
Gottschalk, Dubuque Hempstead, number 2. 106 always is kind of we talk about in the other rankings, is always kind of a free-for-all. I mean, Rabineau from Iowa City West in there. He was at Fargo. He struggled out there, and some other, summer events, but he's out there, trying to get better, 106 pounds. And you got a name here, Derek Anderson from Ankeny. I've heard that name. He's at ranked 10th right now for Ankeny.
Yeah, a kid that was maybe a little undersized last year. His brother wrestled up at Iowa State a little bit and graduated from Ankeny, 5 years ago. So spoke with him a little bit going into the season, and it looks like he is going to be down there again. It is going to be a little bit of a weight cut for him to get down there, but had some, up and down last year, but a guy that I kind of like slotted in there at that 10 spot.
Oldham's really to lose, you think? Is there some freshmen that you're knowing that...
Right now with him, obviously the freshman that everyone's looking forward to seeing this year, Shriver's going to be coming in at Mason City, even though he has kind of struggled, it seems, when he goes up and wrestles those full 6-pounders. So, those two could see each other at the Keith Young, right away. So
it really will be interesting to see how Colin does wrestling these 106-pounders, and eventually they're going to be 108-pounders. And then at state wrestling tournament, they're going to be 109-pounders, 110-pounders. So it's going to be a test for him. He's got some work to do to be able to go with these upper weights, I guess you could say. I mean, it is the weight class he's at, but when you're wrestling 90, you're 98 pounds or 100 pounds, 102, you're giving up some weight class. So this will be definitely a test for him. But I do think he's going to be easily slotted into these top 10 rankings as the season goes on. He wrestles maybe Oldham there at that tournament. But going up to 113 pounds, returning state champ Kyle Biscaglia from Waukee. He was at 106. We all know the whole Cade DeVos situation with Waukee last year. Drew Bennett at 113. Drew Bennett, I think, has had the better summer than Biscaglia. He's gone to bigger events. He hasn't been able to get over that hump against the top national talent, but he's put it on the line more than probably Biscaglia has, in my opinion, against the top kids. Went out Super 32, wasn't really, didn't have the best Super 32, but these two guys right here are the ones that I think it's a 2-horse race.
Oh, yeah, 2-horse race for sure. These two battled last year, to a 1-1 ultimate tiebreaker loss for Bennett over at the Council Bluffs Wrestling Classic. And then Biscaglia got him again, the second round of state. 6-5 ultimate tiebreaker, I think, or maybe tiebreaker 2. So, they're ultra close matches every time that they go on the mat. Another one of Bennett's losses last year was to DeVos at the CIML. So, I mean, these two are heads and shoulders, I think, above the rest of that class. But you got some good kids there at, that 2 or the 3, 4, 5.
Mark Ames, too, at number 7.
All those,
Ames
state qualifiers last year. Ames is a kid that is in a tough room, so you have no choice but to get better in that Southeast Polk room. So
I was at the Southeast Polk room on Saturday, and holy cow, he's working with Perrin. He's working with everybody under the sun that you can get to have in a wrestling room. I mean, he had a tough district last year. I think he was at 6 pounds, so he had Biscaglia and he had Oldham there, if I remember right.
Yeah, he was third at his district last year.
Yeah,
6. So behind Biscaglia and who was the kid from Waukee maybe.
Biscaglia, and then you've got Oldham. Oldham. So
yep.
Two kids at state place winners, so obviously Mark Ames was left off that. This year the districts are pretty even. I think Southeast Polk is going to get a ton of guys in. We'll talk about the team race here later on, but let's move up to 120 pounds. If you don't call Alex Thompson the pound-for-pound best wrestler in the state, the next guy is probably Brody Teskey on your list. I really hope that we get to see these two wrestle at War at West Gym sometime. With Thompson being up a weight, he's going to be depending on where they end up being for weight classes. But Teskey is the guy here. He's one of the top wrestlers in the state, 2-time state champ. Between him and Thompson, he still has the pace to go for 4 state titles. But Perrin, Southeast Polk, Colby Pritchard is a name that really is he's really been a lurker. Last year didn't have a really good state tournament, but he's won a lot of tournaments. He wrestled a lot of tournaments. So top 3 here, all those guys I think are really going to test the waters here at 120 pounds. But it's going to be a tall task to beat Teskey.
Oh, yeah, it will be. He's, undefeated in his high school career in Iowa. So that's going to be a tall task for anybody to try to get there. What I'm interested in is to see how Pritchard carries his extra weight this year. He could have a really big upper body advantage against a lot of those kids. Down the list there, Hughes Riley was a state qualifier in 15. Albrecht moving up. He had a pretty good freshman year for Waverly. He's gonna be tough.
Cade
Moss at Johnston, another tough, kid who had a really good freshman year. Maybe didn't put it together like he wanted to in the end, but.
He was at 6. He was 106 pounds too, and cut a ton of weight. I mean, the Cade Moss being in that room. I felt for him every single time he had to make weight, but that's what he had to do to make that team so successful last year and make the state duels. But it'll be interesting to see how Cade does up at 120 pounds. I think a weight class that's going to be better suit for him mentally. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. Always been a good guy, on the youth level. Let's go up to 126 pounds. We get to see, this weight class is loaded, but Brown, Price, this is a rivalry. Don't kid you not. These guys don't like each other. I know Price. I'm getting to know Brown a little bit, but these guys don't like each other. They have such similar styles, and each match really could kind of go either way, but you got to give Brown, obviously, the number 1 spot, and then Price behind that. Then you got McGuire, Midkiff, from Council Bluffs, Thomas Jefferson right there at number 3. Then Lochner at Fort Dodge, obviously in one of the toughest rooms in the state. So 126 pounds is loaded as well.
Yeah, Brown and Price, man, they went back and forth last year. Price got the first one. Brown got the second one. Price gets the third one. Brown gets the fourth one, So just those two, are really interchangeable there at that 1 and 2 spot. It's just Brown got the last one, and it happened to be at the state tournament. Midkiff was kind of tough to slot there. He's, moving up 2 weight classes this year. I like Lochner a lot. I think he's a kid that can, maybe jump up and test those top 3, really make a run for the money. Anderson, I like what he did last year at 2A, so it'll be fun to see him back in 3A this year and see what he can do. Some of those other guys, they're tough kids, state qualifiers last year. So
132 pounds. Huge transfer for Southeast Polk. Cade DeVos. Just really solidifies the Southeast Polk lineup. They're just hammers after hammers after hammers. Huge favorites at all these weight classes that we're going to be talking about here. But Cade DeVos is transferred now, and I got to see him on Saturday. He's working out. with Barnes, and he wasn't getting the best of Barnes. Obviously, he's a lot bigger than him, but Cade DeVos looks good. His arm looks good. Obviously, we know everything that happened with Waukee last year. But Jake Waters from Dowling Catholic is right there. Lance Runyon, really good kid that I liked as a freshman. Very confident. Every single time I talk to him, very confident kid, ranked there at third. Burt from Epworth Western Dubuque, a senior, really kind of just trying to get over that hurdle there. But what else do you see here at 132 pounds?
Well, I might get a little flack here. DeVos is bumping up, 5 weight classes. I still have him number 1 ranked preseason just because of what he's done in the offseason. He's put on the weight, I think, the right way. He's gotten in that Southeast Polk room. I think he's just going to thrive there. He finished 4th, I want to say, at preseason nationals. So I think he's done enough to solidify that number 1. But I can also see where people would give me a little, well, he hasn't proved it yet, with him breaking his arm last year before the state tournament and everything. So, but Jordan's a kid who could put you on your back at any time, and like you said, Runyon's just overflowing with confidence. So it's going to be a fun weight.
Yeah, I was getting interested in when I was hearing that Cade was going clear up to 132 pounds of how he was going to handle that. A lot of pressure on him, I think. Once you do that transfer to Southeast Polk, I mean, you got a radar on your back that you wouldn't have at Waukee, in my opinion. So there's going to be a lot of people gunning for him, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles that mentally, weight wise, all above. So this will be a fun weight class to see. Obviously, Southeast Polk's going to be pretty happy to see him at number 1.
And it's not necessarily set in stone how that 26, 32, 38 is going to shake out for Southeast Polk. Those 3 right there are all pretty interchangeable at their weights, so I'm sure they're going to have some battles coming up in that room to figure out where everyone's going to go and how everyone's going to get slotted. Right now, it just kind of matches up to where you get those rivalries, renewed if it shakes out this way.
I think based off what I saw in the wrestling room, I think it's Brown spotted 26 just as far as weight wise go, and then with 32 and 38, I think Lent and DeVos are going to be wrestling off for 132 pounds, and I think you just interchange them. If you have Lent at 32 pounds, he's not ranked number 1 too, returning finalist. So Lent maybe try to get away from Lara a little bit if he does try to cut down DeVos. I think DeVos-Lara is a better matchup than Lent-Lara. I think Lara just has his number. But let's move up. Let's talk about 138 pounds. Obviously, Tristan Lara, Night of Conflict wrestler, huge guy for us. Big fan of Tristan Lara. We've always been the senior from Fort Dodge. Him and Teskey, the leaders of this team. There's a lot of leaders on this team, but he's the guy that has been in all the newspapers, AAU growing up. You know that name. You got Lent, Steffensmeyer from Fort Madison, Council Bluffs, Abraham Lincoln, Herzog, Lewis. Polmeyer's in there. He's a really funky little wrestler from Johnston. But again, I think we're going to see Lara Lent in the finals again. That's my opinion. But they're the rankings guy. So how do you feel like this lineup, this weight class is going to end up?
No, I like that too. Lent and Lara, they've been going back and forth for what seems like forever now. The last 2 years being at the same weight and everything. Lent got him 2 years ago, and Lara kind of had his number last year and really turned it up.
Opened the gap.
Opened the gap and everything, as they would say. So he's really, oh man, Schwab's getting a good one, isn't he?
Yeah, that was. I think that was a big one on his radar.
He's that kid that's going to go in and give you 110% all the time, and if nothing else, he's going to beat you up. So he's a brawler out there, and yeah, I think it's him and Lent, and Stephen Myers is good from Fort Madison. So, and there's nothing to say that he can't sneak up there and get you either. So
yeah, Moreno from Dallas Center, Grimes, and Polmeyer. I just feel like they're real wild cards at that weight class. But let's move up to 145 pounds. Valley. This is Valley and Southeast Polk. Obviously, I think they're going to be hunting for that team title. Fort Dodge might be in there in the mix, depending if they show up at Wells Fargo. But you got Stotts number 1 from Valley, Barnes number 2. this is a loaded weight class at the top.
Yeah, Stotts, I had to slot him number 1. He's got the experience. He's a 2-time finalist. He won it last year. Barnes was on fire last year going into the state tournament, and then just, he ran into Nelson Brands. And, that's kind of how it was
that's
for
the story,
him. The story for him, battled back and got third. But, so I had to go with Stotts in the number 1 spot. I think him and Barnes are going to, be in Southeast Polk Valley. They're going to see each other quite a few times throughout the year. So I think those are going to be good battles. Graham there at...
ranked 3rd from Johnston, Nick Graham. That's a kid that I've seen. I know a lot about him. He came out for my team when I coached at Johnston. His first time on the mat was his 7th grade year at my practice. He took a double leg, and from there on, I've just been in his ear ever since. It kind of backed off a little bit here lately, which I think is, it's been great. And he ran into Nelson Brands as well, just like Barnes did. And he hurt his elbow. Has some injuries, but he's healthy.
But yeah, came back and got 6th last year at 38 after running into Brands and everything. So, and then Mason Hulse is another one that's a state qualifier last year at 38. I mean, up and down this whole thing is state qualifiers. Preston Terry just placed at the preseason nationals. So, I mean, that's a pretty deep weight.
152 pounds. Nelson Brands, Iowa City West. I was in a suite last year next to the Brands family, and they were just going insane for Nelson Brands to pick up that state title as a sophomore. It's got to be so tough to live in those shadows, I guess, of that name. Living up to it, though, is another thing, and he did not have an easy road to that state title last year. I mean, let's get things right. Like, he just didn't just walk through it. Not an easy road to the state finals last year for Nelson Brands.
No, absolutely not. In this way, it's got me real excited. You got 5 state place winners back from last year. Brands moving up 2 weights. Yant moving up 3 weights. Mulder moving up 3 weights. Lara moving up a weight. Sam's moving up 3 weights. Wimpin back at 52. Nicholson back at 52. Brown back at 52. I mean, this is just a weight that from top to bottom is loaded up.
When I first heard Nicholson come into Valley, transfer in from, is it Georgia?
Or Virginia.
Virginia.
Yep, Virginia.
I don't know, I'd think of Georgia. But anyways, when I heard he was coming back into Iowa at the Valley Room, I was like, instant guy that's going to be in the top 3. I think got his feet wet a little bit last year and really kind of getting acclimated in that room. Obviously training with Joel Shapiro at 160 pounds, which we'll go to right now. Number 1 ranked wrestler. He's had a great summer, and not a guy that tells you that he's confident or lets you know that he's like, real little proud of what he's done. But I think deep down he's got a ton of confidence inside. He just doesn't like exude it. You know what I mean? Like he's like the silent but deadly type of guy, kind of like Max Lyon, but 160 pounds. He's definitely, I think, a huge favorite here at this weight class.
Grinder, man. He's a hammer on top. So if you get underneath him, you got a long period ahead of you. So, but then Wagenhofer back this year. Had a good year last year at 52. I think placed 4th. Saracen, obviously a Fargo placer. Stetcher, the coach's son, will be solid for Linmar. Ward bumping up a weight, placed last year at 52. He'll be good. And then Griffin. Look for Griffin to very athletic kid. Could do some big things. And then you got Preston Dunn transferring in from Sergeant Bluff Luton into Lamar's. He was a place winner last year in 2A. So
at Carter Row Eater there too at Iowa City West. Iowa City West always kind of seems like they've got a couple guys here in the last 5 years that really kind of make some noise. Obviously Nelson Brands, but this is a tough weight class. And you start saying these names, I'm like, yeah, I remember Ward, Griffith from Lincoln. Lincoln's really is that program. I think that we talked about this off air. That I really think that 2 years, 3 years from now, Lincoln is going to be a force in the state, not just the CIML. I feel like they're doing really good things there at Lincoln, so that program is definitely on the rise. moving to 170 pounds, loaded as well at the top. I mean, Marcus Coleman, returning state champ, Anthony Sherry, Glenwood, Babcock from Southeast Polk, Lopez Bettendorf. This is Austin Lamb clear down at 7. He had some injuries as well, but this is a tough weight class here at 170 pounds, Kirk.
Yeah, obviously it starts at the top with Coleman, the Iowa State recruit, 2-time state champ. Everything you want and more in a wrestler. Sherry, moving up from 2A. Didn't do as well as he wanted to last year at the state tournament in 2A, finishing 4th, I think. But
seemed like a slow
always
season.
A tough kid, and he could be up at 82. I don't know. I didn't hear from the Glenwood coach, so just kind of guessing on weight there. But yeah,
he's got a tough place to go. If he's got Marcus Coleman at 170 pounds and at 182, he's got Max Lyon up there. So Sherry's kind of just. I feel like last year everyone was real excited to see Sherry, but he just didn't kind of get over the hump, or he didn't beat those big guys throughout the season. Right. And I feel like that kind of dragged into his state wrestling tournament. I think it was, you didn't know what weight class he was going or if he was hurt last year. I can't really remember what was going on with Sherry, but mentioned it, 182 pounds, Max Lyon. He's another guy that's silent but deadly, kind of like Shapiro, and that's a guy that, to me, one of the biggest favorite weight classes. If you had a fantasy lineup in 3A, Max Lyon would probably be the top of my list. He's almost, I don't want to take anything away from the other guys, but Max Lyon is just a real consistent wrestler for Western Dubuque.
No, and I gotta agree with you. It almost looks like this weight's kind of cleared out, and not take anything away from the other guys in the weight class, but yeah, this is definitely Max Lyon's weight to win. And Kubavec was a place winner last year at 70, but that's Max Lyon's weight.
Corbin up at 195 pounds. He's ranked number 1 from Valley in your rankings. A senior, going to be huge points for Valley there as well in the tournament team, dual team. You got Bartell from Mason City, Hagstrom from Glenwood. Dowling Catholic's got a guy in there. Dowling Catholic's kind of creeping into these team rankings. A team that we just haven't seen for a while. I think those old recruiting days kind of were gone, and now they're back. I don't know about recruiting, but they got a new coach and seem to have a little bit of new fire back at Dowling Catholic.
Yeah, and I think the new coach is getting a lot more of the football players to start dabbling in wrestling a little bit. So he's getting those kids that are the bigger kids, strong, athletic kids that you can teach them a few double legs or.
Well, they just won. Yeah, they just won 4th. They just won their 4th state title, so it wouldn't be bad to snag a couple of those Dowling football players. So.
Right, but at 95, I went back and forth between Bartell and Corbin. Corbin was at 95 last year. Bartell moving up from 82. Bartell was 3rd. Corbin 5th. Corbin's wrestled a little more, I think, in the off season. And I guess I just went with Corbin on that one. But Hagstrom's coming up from 2A. He placed 8th last year at 95. Sauer, another place winner. Salazar, state qualifier. Dyke, state qualifier. So another deep weight there at 95.
It does seem like you guys have put a lot more emphasis on these rankings. If you wrestle in the off season, we said it, if you don't go out for competition, you're just not gonna get those national rankings. For some of these guys, it's for these state rankings coming up. So you're seeing that pay off, and hopefully it'll pay off in down at Wells Fargo. But you guys are definitely putting more emphasis on what the freestyle kids are doing, and I think that's great. Here's where I think is a story at 220 pounds. 3 guys that all are really great wrestlers: Wyatt Wright, Rocky Lombardi, and Jacob Zachary. Top 3. What I think was very interesting is that Lombardi is back. D1 recruit for football. He's a star. Well, I didn't win the state championship, but you got a scholarship, my man. And I think I was just shocked to see him back out for wrestling. It just goes to show how much he puts that emphasis on, his football game on wrestling, to go out for wrestling. Obviously, the team needs him. The team needs him to be out there top. He's ranked 2nd here in your rankings. But talk about these top 3 guys here at 220 pounds.
Well, here's just a fun way. I mean, Rent and Lombardi Rent didn't actually beat Lombardi last year until the state tournament. So, I mean, that's one where Lombardi holds the head-to-head 3-1, so you can go either way there. And Zachary, man, he's coming off his 4th straight state title. Just an absolute ox of a human being. You got Trevor Berry there, who's also solid. I think he placed last year at 220. No, he was state qualifier last year. So, but those top 3, I mean, they're going to tangle at Keith Young again December 3rd up there in Cedar Falls. So, if you're in the area for that one, definitely worth the price of admission that day.
Yeah, so Zachary, he's that family. There's a lot of excitement because you get to see the family up on the head table. I remember last year, but he's got that experience at the well. This is four-time state qualifier. Is what you said? 4-time state qualifier or Zachary?
Oh no, just state champion football.
State champion football. So he's got the football experience. I didn't know how many times he's been to the state wrestling tournament, but that's a name that we've obviously have grown accustomed to. 285, Aaron Costello, a guy that was not even our Fab 50 rankings here from Lars, and he's really bursted onto the scene here. End of last year, this summer, and has beat, I think the Disney Duels where he really just upset some big names and really kind of got a ton of confidence at this weight class. He's number 1, Aaron Costello, the Hawkeye commit, and getting out of the way, that confidence, just you step on the mat, you're going to be wearing the black and gold. I feel like that is going to be a difference maker here for this weight class. But who else you got here that you definitely should be on the lookout for at 285? Southeast Polk's always got a guy at 285 that could step up, and you got one ranked here, Levi Brain at Southeast, the senior for Southeast Polk.
Well, yeah, just going through what Jason sent me for everything, and he's like, I got an athletic 6'2", 250 athletic senior who's going to wrestle like the rest of our heavyweights. So, I mean, he did have a few matches in, I guess, what you'd call mop-up duty last year for Ramirez, and he's going to be a solid kid. Just there's like I said earlier, there's no other thing to do but get better in that room. But you return 6 state place winners last year from heavyweight, so you return the number 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the number 4 kid in 2A moves up, with Caleb Sanders from Glenwood. So that's gonna be a fun one. But yeah, I'd definitely say it's Costello's right now. Just the way he's wrestling, he looks like a man on a mission.
Yeah, Glenwood coming into 3A here really does shake up the top 10 as far as tournament team rankings go. And last year, everyone I think just assumed that Southeast Polk would be ranked number 1 right away. But they weren't. I think it was kind of like I don't want to say wake-up call, I guess, but it was just on paper. You got those Fort Dodge Hammers that was there. You had Sam Cook, number 1 ranked guy. So these tournament rankings are different than how the whole team looks. But this year, starting preseason, returning state tournament team rank champion Southeast Polk's at the top. Then down the lineup, you've got Valley at number 2, Fort Dodge at number 5. And then North Scott at top 4. But do you think this is a 3-horse race? I mean, Fort Dodge you got the Larry, you got the Bennett, you got Teskey, you got some guys there, Lochner. You definitely have some guys there that could make some noise. And I think Fort Dodge is going to have a 6-pounder that people are going to be a freshman that people are going to be talking about here, which we'll get into the next rankings. But What are your thoughts looking at the rankings of how this might shake up? Will it be a tight race like we saw last year?
Looking at it right now, I would say Southeast Polk and Valley are a step up from 3 through, let's say, 8. But that's not to say that once we get those freshmen in there, you have some kids that that are on the cusp of taking the next step and everything. So I definitely think that there's some teams that can make a run at them, but right now those 2 are definitely above everyone else, and those 2 are neck and neck for that top spot.
What I like about these rankings is there's nothing. Obviously, the individual rankings, it's up to subjectivity of the rankers to decide who goes where. But when it comes to the tournament team rankings, it always just seems to kind of work itself out. You're not changing the team rankings. Those are based off of the points. You're kind of the guy that came up with the point system. So to let the public know a little bit of how your point system goes, how do you guys break this down as far as points go? Is it normal like a normal tournament?
It's pretty much scored like a normal tournament. Obviously, you can't predict bonus points in anything, so that's actually what usually decides tournaments in high school is the bonus points that you're able to score. So is it flawless? No, absolutely not. But it's something to give us a guide as to where the guys are or where we feel that the teams are with the guys that they have ranked on each team.
All right, well, there you have it. 1A, 2A, 3A. I just got done with Kirk Crittenden here in the hot box of the IA Russell office. And go back, if you haven't checked out the rankings, go on iarussell.com. We've got all the rankings out. 3A's at 8 o'clock, 2A's at 10 o'clock, and 1A at noon. And then we will be having rankings here in a couple weeks. There's usually about 6 sets of rankings throughout the year. We just kind of pick and choose when we think is going to be the best time as far as getting those big tournaments in, those big matchups. So we'll be bringing another 5-6 sets of rankings here before the state championship. As always, I'm Tony Hager for Lars Underbakke, Kirk Crittenden, Eric Schares, and the rest of the crew at IA Russell that helped put these rankings together. Thanks for listening, and let's get this season started already.
Know when the whistle go.